The Dhammapada, from ancient times to the present, the Dhammapada has been regarded as the most succinct expression of the Buddha's teaching found in the Pali Canon and the chief spiritual testament of early Buddhism. In the countries following Theravada Buddhism, such as Sri Lanka, Burma and Thailand, the influence of the Dhammapada is ubiquitous. It is an ever-fecund source of themes for sermons and discussions, a guidebook for resolving the countless problems of everyday life, a primer for the instruction of novices in the monasteries. Even the experienced contemplative, withdrawn to forest hermitage or mountainside cave for a life of meditation, can be expected to count a copy of the book among his few material possessions. Yet the admiration the Dhammapada has elicited has not been confined to avowed followers of Buddhism. Wherever it has become known, its moral earnestness, realistic understanding of human life, aphoristic wisdom and stirring message of a way to freedom from suffering have won for it the devotion and veneration of those responsive to the good and the true. The expounder of the verses that comprise the Dhammapada is the Indian sage called the Buddha, an honorific title meaning the enlightened one, or the awakened one. The story of this venerable personage has often been overlaid with literary embellishment and the admixture of legend, but the historical essentials of his life are simple and clear. He was born in the 6th century BC, the son of a king ruling over a small state in the Himalayan foothills, in what is now Nepal. His given name was Siddhartha and his family name Gautama, Sanskrit, Siddhartha Gautama. Raised in luxury, groomed by his father to be the heir to the throne, in his early manhood he went through a deeply disturbing encounter with the sufferings of life, as a result of which he lost all interest in the pleasures and privileges of rulership. One night, in his 29th year, he fled the royal city and entered the forest to live as an ascetic, resolved to find a way to deliverance from suffering. For 6 years he experimented with different systems of meditation and subjected himself to severe austerities, but found that these practices did not bring him any closer to his goal. Finally, in his 35th year, while sitting in deep meditation beneath a tree at Gaya, he attained supreme enlightenment and became, in the proper sense of the title, the Buddha, the Enlightened One. Thereafter, for 45 years, he traveled throughout northern India, proclaiming the truths he had discovered and founding an order of monks and nuns to carry on his message. At the age of 80, after a long and fruitful life, he passed away peacefully in the small town of Kusinara, surrounded by a large number of disciples. To his followers, the Buddha is neither a god, a divine incarnation, or a prophet bearing a message of divine revelation, but a human being who by his own striving and intelligence has reached the highest spiritual attainment of which man is capable, perfect wisdom, full enlightenment, complete purification of mind. His function in relation to humanity is that of a teacher, a world teacher who, out of compassion, points out to others the way to Nibbana, in Sanskrit, nirvana, final release from suffering. His teaching, known as the Dharma, offers a body of instructions explaining the true nature of existence and showing the path that leads to liberation. Free from all dogmas and inscrutable claims to authority, the Dharma is founded solidly upon the bedrock of the Buddha's own clear comprehension of reality, and it leads the one who practices it to that same understanding, the knowledge which extricates the roots of suffering. The title, Dhammapada, which the ancient compilers of the Buddhist scriptures attached to our anthology, means portions, aspects, or sections of Dharma. The work has been given this title because, in its 26 chapters, it spans the multiple aspects of the Buddha's teaching, offering a variety of standpoints from which to gain a glimpse into its heart. Whereas the longer discourses of the Buddha contained in the prose sections of the canon usually proceed methodically, unfolding according to the sequential structure of the doctrine, the Dhammapada lacks such a systematic arrangement. The work is simply a collection of inspirational or pedagogical verses on the fundamentals of the Dharma, to be used as a basis for personal edification and instruction. In any given chapter, several successive verses may have been spoken by the Buddha on a single occasion, and thus, among themselves will exhibit a meaningful development or a set of variations on a theme. But by and large, the logic behind the grouping together of verses into a chapter is merely the concern with a common topic. The 26 chapter headings thus function as a kind of rubric for classifying the diverse poetic utterances of the Master, and the reason behind the inclusion of any given verse in a particular chapter is its mention of the subject indicated in the chapter's heading. In some cases, chapters 4 and 23, this may be a metaphorical symbol, rather than a point of doctrine. There also seems to be no intentional design in the order of the chapters themselves, though at certain points, a loose thread of development can be discerned. The teachings of the Buddha, viewed in their completeness, all link together into a single perfectly coherent system of thought and practice which gains its unity from its final goal, the attainment of deliverance from suffering. But the teachings inevitably emerge from the human condition as their matrix and starting point, and thus must be expressed in such a way as to reach human beings standing at different levels of spiritual development, with their highly diverse problems, ends, and concerns, and with their very different capacities for understanding. Thence, just as water, though one in essence, assumes different shapes due to the vessels into which it is poured, so the Dharma of liberation takes on different forms in response to the needs of the beings to be taught. This diversity, evident enough already in the prose discourses, becomes even more conspicuous in the highly condensed, spontaneous and intuitively charged medium of verse used in the Dhammapada. The intensified power of delivery can result in apparent inconsistencies, which may perplex the unwary. For example, in many verses the Buddha commends certain practices on the grounds that they lead to a heavenly birth, but in others he discourages disciples from aspiring for heaven and extols the one who takes no delight in celestial pleasures. 187, 417, unless chapter numbers are indicated, all figures enclosed in parenthesis refer to verse numbers of the Dhammapada. We will explain this with our next videos. Subscribe us and stay tuned.